Well, good evening, everyone. If I could ask you to get to your chairs and rise, actually, and we will begin the Ferndale City Council meeting for Monday, June 24th, 2013. To order, rise for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Galloway.
Here.
Martin.
Here.
Piana.
Here.
Lennon. Mayor Coulter.
Here. Thank you. We have a quorum this evening. Next order of business would be the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda this evening?
I'd move that we approve the agenda as presented.
I support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Piana. Any discussion? Madam Clerk?
Council members Galloway.
Yes.
Martin.
Yes.
Piana.
Yes.
Mayor Coulter.
Yes, thank you. The agenda is adopted as presented. Next item of business would be presentations. We have several presentations this evening, the first being the Ferndale Community Foundation Grant Awards, which is always an exciting evening to hear the recipients of the Community Foundation grants. And it looks like we have Judy Palmer and Greg Pollica with us this evening.
Right here is okay?
This is fine,
Okay,
yeah.
good. Makes it less crazy. Hi, I'm Judy Palmer, and I'm now the chairperson of the Ferndale Community Foundation. Ferndale Community Foundation started about 8 years ago. It was started with some seed money from a house that was left to us, or to the city. It was sold, and it started us going. Since then, we've done a lot of fundraising and stuff. And now, over the past several years, we've given out grants. And this year, we have 5 grants to hand out. The first one will go to the Ferndale Beautification Commission. So we ask that you guys come on up. We decided that their grant was great, and to use towards supplies, promotional items, guest speakers, scholarship. And the scholarship will be for a middle school student to design a logo for the commission.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Oh, pictures.
The next one we're going to give out is to the Ferndale Free Clinic. Is anybody here from there? Okay. The Fern Care, yep. Fern Care Free Clinic, we approved them also for a grant, and is to support medical supplies and prescription medications for the 4th monthly clinic session that is currently under development. They currently have 3 sessions, and they're working on a 4th.
Great.
The next one is for the Ferndale Downtown Development Authority, otherwise known as the DDA, and that has been approved to develop an ArtWin application that's used for smartphones and tablets, and that'll provide an interactive catalog and tour of art in the downtown Ferndale. Thank you very much.
Excellent.
Okay. The next one is for the Ferndale Public Library, and we've approved funds to hire and fund a professional consultant who will create a written fundraising and development plan to assure the long-term financial sustainability. That's one thing that the Ferndale Community Foundation, we wanted to give back to the nonprofits in the area and help them help themselves. So this is one of those that I think is really going to be great for them. Is anybody here from the library?
Yes, there they are.
And last but not least is our Michigan Fallen. We have approved that they're going to have a grant for printing and material costs for maintaining the annual Michigan Fallen Foot Float in the annual Memorial Day Parade. Anybody here from Michigan Fallen? Oh, yeah. The total amount that we gave out this year is $6,800.
Wow.
$6,800.
That's great.
And we hope to, in the future, do more and more. We're planning a Taste of Ferndale in the fall, which will be, hopefully, as of right now, it's under the planning, but we think it's going to be at the Loving Touch, and they're going to allow us to have, as we've done in the past for the Taste of Ferndale, have many of the local restaurants there, and you'll have a taste of whatever they choose to bring as their specialty. And it's been a lot of fun, and as well as we'll have a silent auction, and just it's a great gathering. And that's our largest fundraiser.
Okay.
We also have Ferndale Community Foundation bags for sale. If anybody's interested, we have lots of these. So,
How would people get them?
oh, they can call Greg.
Because everybody has been out.
I was going to say,
No, they can email us. It's info. Is it info?
Info.
Yeah, info at FerndaleCommunityFoundation.org.
Greg would probably appreciate that better. Right.
He knows where they are. So, and that's about it.
Well, thank you for all your good work, Greg and Judy. Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone at the Community Foundation. Awesome. All right, our next presentation is the June Beautification Award. So I think Peggy is going to make a second trip to the microphone.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
This starts our award season, and the first one is our commercial one. It's for Autometric Collision of Ferndale. It's on Woodward, 23222 Woodward, and it was nice because another business nominated it. It's Larry Smith and Autometrics are to be congratulated for improving a rather mundane piece of Woodward Avenue. Whereas the old shop was an eyesore to the area, it now has been transformed into a wonderful facility. So it was kind of nice that they were looking out for other businesses and nominating them and spotting that. So they have their sign in the window that they won.
Awesome.
And our first residential award of the year is 395 West Camborne, and that's to Adam and Carrie Reamer. And it's a cute little brick bungalow, and it has a nice use of shrubs and hedges and things, different heights and shapes and colors, with some annuals for more color mixed in. And the second residential is Mark and Emily Mecklenburg at 281 College, and they also have a nice use of shrubs and hedges, different colors, different heights, you know, for layering and whatever. They have a lot of hostas and things. They also have hanging plants and a lot of potted plants, and they have an arbor when you come up the front walk. It's quite attractive. And those are our first awards for this year.
Excellent.
And I would like to mention that tomorrow is our 11th annual tree planting for the Tree City USA, and it's tomorrow, June 29th, 1 o'clock at Oppenheimer Park. I think we're planting 2 trees, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 2? Okay. And we get a lot, every year we get a flag, and sometimes it's flown at City Hall, or Sean Slocum said it was sometime flown at one of the parks, so I don't know where it will be flown. But we get a flag every year. Also, he showed me a number of things that we have, plaques and other items that he's got in boxes because there's really no place for us to display it. But we get a lot of nice things for being involved with this program. And one of the requirements is a gathering, and that's why we're kind of late this year with it. This year, of course, the Beautification Commission will be there, but we have a group of children coming from the summer program at the Kulik Center, so we're kind of including them. We always like to have children, show children how to plant the trees and the proper care of taking, you know, how to take care of them, so they'll treat them kindly. And we'd also like to let people know if they have any homes they'd like to nominate, their own or another one. They could call the DPW. Roseanne will be happy to take the information and pass it along. Her number is 248-546-2519. And that's all for this evening. Thank you.
And I think you're also always open to new members on the Beautification
Yes, of
Commission,
course,
right,
definitely,
Peggy? So if there's
definitely.
someone interested in working with you,
Yep, we
they
would
could
love
call
to.
that same number?
Yes, or the city clerk. There's applications online, if I'm not mistaken, Cheryl Lynn?
Yes.
Yes, there's applications online, or there's upstairs on that spinner round thing.
Good.
Thank you.
Thanks, Peggy. Appreciate it as always. Thanks for all your hard work. Our next presentation is the Friends of the Ferndale Library. They had a fundraiser recently, and I think they want to recognize some folks. So come on up. A really fun fundraiser, I might add.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Jenny. I serve on the board of the Friends of the Ferndale Library. As you all know, Ferndale Public Library totally rocks. And, of course, the Friends are huge fans who are dedicated to supporting the library's mission to provide a community with the best possible information, entertainment, arts, and culture. We support the library by raising needed funds through our used bookstore and fundraisers, as well as by volunteering time and energy to make sure library events are a success. Last year, the Friends provided funding for Ferndale Reads, summer reading events, books, music, and the library's popular Lucky Day book collection, totaling over $8,000. The Friends would like to take this opportunity to present the library with 2 checks of proceeds from recent fundraisers, which were both a huge success. The first check is in the amount of $1,060 from a fundraiser the Friends did during the Metro Times blowout in May, when the library was one of the Ferndale's host music venues. We've heard feedback from blowout attendees that the library was the place to be. The Friends raised funds through beer sales over 4 days of the blowout, which the library will use to add to their impressive collection of music, which includes many local bands. The fundraiser, as well as the Day of Books and Roses event, would not have been possible without support from the City Council. We would like to say, the Friends and the Library Board of Trustees would like to say another big thank you to all of you for granting the Library Board of Trustees a temporary liquor license. The next check I'd like to present to the library is in the amount of $5,876 from our now 4th annual Day of Books and Roses event held back in April. This popular event brought together local poets, authors, musicians, and also included delicious food and wine tasting to mark a famous day in Catalonia, Spain, called La Diada de Sant Jordi. On this day, people buy books and roses to exchange as gifts to celebrate World Literature Day on April 23rd and to honor St. George, Catalonia's patron saint, who allegedly slayed a dragon about to devour a princess. From the dragon's blood sprouted a rose bush from which the hero plucked the prettiest blossom for the princess. La Diada de Sant Jordi was introduced to the library in 2010 by Ferndale residents Eli Bunt and his wife Nuria Garote. Eli and Nuria are founders of the Society of St. Jordi, which underwrites the entire cost of the Day of Books and Roses event each year and donates 100% of the proceeds to the Friends to support the library's programs and services. Their organization's mission is to foster the creation and appreciation of literature and art through cross-cultural exchanges like the Books and Roses event, and the Friends are honored to take part in their efforts. In addition to funding the event, Eli and Nuria have also contributed countless hours and many glasses of wine to help the Friends organize this event. The Friends are deeply grateful to Eli and Nuria for their incredible generosity to the library. And just personally, I think this community is very fortunate to have them. They have just an amazing passion and commitment to promoting arts and culture, and so I just would like to thank them.
Very good. I would echo that. Eli and I don't see Nuria, but thank you very much for all the hard work that you do with that event. It really has. It's the 4th annual already. Wow. It's become already a tradition in town. So thank you so much for all the work on that, and raised a nice amount of money as well. Some people don't realize, but the library relies more than just the millage, that if they're going to do the extra things that they want to do, like expand the music collection and other things, they rely on our Friends of the Library and other fundraising activities. So support the library however you can. Our next presentation is the Downtown Development Authority. And Chris, are you going to present for us this evening?
Good evening. Chris Hughes, Communications and Marketing Manager for the Ferndale DDA. Council, Mayor, happy to be here. We have lots of things to report, so I'll talk as quick as I can. First of all, I want to say thank you to all the businesses on West 9 Mile who are surviving very nicely through this very sometimes difficult and tricky process of getting the new water main in and eventually the streetscape as we move along. Also to all the consumers who came down and fans of Ferndale to support those businesses who came out for the cash mob that we staged for 8 Degrees Plato when all access to their business was inadvertently shut down. So it's been a tricky process, but the whole team has been fantastic. You'll have a better update from Christina on all and Lloyd about construction, but we just wanted to thank the businesses and the consumers for continuing to support downtown Ferndale businesses. Next, Art Town. The fundraiser for public art was held on Friday night, and it was, as so much is in Ferndale, fabulous. 18 decommissioned parking meters repurposed by as many artists went like hotcakes, and thanks to a long list of contributors and volunteers, we were able to raise some awareness and money for public art in downtown Ferndale. I'm going to turn it over to Cindy Wilcock for a second so that she can acknowledge all the many volunteers. She's our volunteer coordinator, and it took a village to hold this event. So Cindy, take it away.
Cindy, good evening.
Hi there. I will make this as quick as possible, but like Chris said, we had a ton of volunteers that made this event possible. So starting with our sponsors, Level One Bank and Boston Tea Room, our event committee, Daniel Benke and Jacqueline Cutright from Elegance by Design, Veronica Lujic and Nicole Raphael from State of the Art, the ladies that worked the check-in table, the auction checkout table, and sold the drink tickets, Mindy Couples, Francine Hatcham, Sandy Colzer, Kimberly Kraft, Sandy Ripolo, Sherry Wells, and Deborah Young, our cleanup crew who started the evening not knowing they were the cleanup crew, Annika Norris, Lisa Valiant, Rick Axon, Scott Wright, our great restaurants that donated food, Imperial and Chef Brennan, who also stayed to help clean up, House Bayou, and our board chair, Michael Hennis, Dino's, Treat Dreams, Western Market, Hungry Howie's, and Rosie O'Grady's, and especially Monique and Steven, who acted as our bar staff for the night. And of course, we couldn't have done it without Chris Best and the Rust Belt Market, the Detroit Actors Theater Company, and the cast of Hair, who came out and gave us a little flash mob performance, as well as our other entertainment, DJ Jim Stone and guitar player J.B. Davies, and of course our auction host, Charlie Langton. So a big thanks to those guys. We could not have done this event without all of them, and of course the 100 or so people who came out and joined us at the event, the 52 plus artists and businesses who donated things to the silent auction, and the 18 artists who worked on the meters. So thank you, all of you.
Excellent. Thank you, everyone.
And we're not done. The event also launched the public voting for the sculptures that were installed last spring as part of the Art Town exhibit. And by next spring, 2 of those sculptures will become part of our public art exhibit permanent collection. So what we're doing, we want the public to vote on this. Where do I hold this, Vanna?
You're good there.
Okay, so you will see these cans all around town. They each represent a different sculpture. There's 11 in total. They will be living at the sponsoring business. They'll be on our website where they all are. And we're asking everybody to vote, and to vote with your pennies, dimes, nickels, quarters, dollars, $100 bills, $1 million checks, anything that you want to put in to keep that sculpture in town, and we're going to use those funds then that will contribute to the final payment of these sculptures, but that will create the top 5, and then it goes to a committee made up of community members to decide which of these 2 sculptures will stay around town. So if you love the Red Ram, or you like quantum cryptography, or Pontiac, or any of those, you got to get out and vote. All the different sculptures will be on our website, and we would love for you to all get out and vote. If you happen to have a particular favorite and you want to champion it, we can lend these cans out for a night. They go out empty, and they're supposed to come back full. So that's beginning. Check our website. If you want to have a can, you want to host a can, give us a call, 248-546-1632. Thank you very much, Vanna. And we also have a brochure available about all our different sculptures, and in fact, all of the art in downtown Ferndale, and there's quite a bit of it. So if you haven't seen it all, spend an evening and day and week and enjoy yourself. Next up, Wednesday, June 26th, that's this week. The DDA's B2B networking opportunity FerNet will happen at 9 a.m. at Easy Like Sunday. What better way to start the day than with yogurt, frozen yogurt with M&Ms on top. Anyway, everyone is invited to come out and check out Foursquare, which is one of the latest and emerging, it's already in existence, but social media sites that is really good for building your business. We're going to have social media guru Heather Coleman Boss share the skills and her savvy, and she's going to also share a little bit about Facebook Shopping Cart for all you businesses. So come on out, it's free, and coffee is of course included. And finally, me. We're very excited about the next big event that we're putting on, which is Get Real Outdoor Movies on Vester Street. It is being relaunched in its second year. We start July 18th on the third Thursday. We'll be having Mamma Mia. This sing-along, we'll have the cast again from Hair that is going to come and help us all sing along. So even if you can't sing, you can sing at this event. Bring chairs, park yourself on Vester Street. It's going to be a great evening. It's free for all attendees. We thank all of our sponsors, who we don't have yet, but we're getting them. And you can find out all the details at downtownferndale.com all the time. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Wow, a lot going on. Thank you. All right. Whew. That concludes our presentations, except when we have other public officials here. I'd like to recognize them and give them an opportunity to say hi if they want. And I see the mayor of our great sister city, Hazel Park, here, Jack Lloyd. How are you, sir? Just coming to observe today? You have anything to share with us? Come on up. Oh! Mayor, thank you very much for that, and thanks for coming by.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, Council, City Manager, Administration, City Police, and Fire Chief, and our other people that we have here tonight. It's no secret that I'm in Ferndale just about as much as I am in Hazel Park. But tonight seems like a night of thank yous, and I just want to let you know, I'll give you an update on how I viewed the Ferndale Police and the city auction. First of all, what an outstanding event. It was held on Saturday sharp at 10 a.m. at the DPW yard, which you all know. But I went to that. It's my second time I went, but it was excellent, ran perfect. Officer Paul Simpson is here on the front page, along with other things, but he's auctioning out bikes and camcorders and computers and city equipment that was collected that they, found a need to auction out. And these auctions, I guess, are held once a year in Ferndale. And it was an outstanding event, ran perfectly smooth. The auxiliaries, the clerks did a great job. The auxiliary police were right there. The police department was right there. They didn't waste any time at all. It was done, I think, over by 12:30 sharp at 10 a.m. and viewing was at 9. But I had a good time. One of my bikes are on the front page here.
One of your bikes that you bought or that you lost?
I bought one.
Oh.
They didn't give it to me. In fact, somebody, I don't know who, was bidding me up. But anyway, it was an outstanding event, and I encourage everybody to go next year.
Well, thank you for that.
It was kind of a hot day, but they did not break 1 minute. They stayed until every piece of equipment that they were auctioning off was gone. And it was a great event because it was held on time at sharp 10 o'clock, and they went right through the bikes first, then they went through the equipment, file cabinets, DPW equipment, camcorders, stuff that was confiscated at various police events. But I just want to say thank you. What a great job. And everybody else is getting thank yous and bravos and everything else. So our police department and their auxiliary needs, we thank you for that too.
I know they appreciate it. Thank you.
Also,
Thanks for sharing
I want to wish everybody a safe, happy 4th of July fireworks. A few changes in the law. We'll be talking about it later. But times that are setting out. I just, while I'm up here, I want to tell you that the Hazel Park fireworks will be held at the Hazel Park Racetrack Friday, July 5th. It's the day after the holiday. Detroit's is tonight. It's not as big as Detroit's, but it's a great event, and
nice
everybody's welcome.
Thank you.
And it starts approximately 10:30 at night. What a great city you have here. You ought to be proud. This is a great audience, and Ferndale does a great job in everything. And I just want to present this paper.
Well, thank you. You could, if you want to give that to Sherilyn. We're proud of our neighbors. Oh, well, there was that.
Great job.
Mayor, thanks so much for the kind words. Appreciate you coming by as always. All right, that concludes our presentations this evening. Next item of business would be public hearings, and we have 2 public hearings this evening. The first is the 2013 Sidewalk Replacement Program. So at this point, I'm going to open the public hearing and ask if there's anyone from the public that would like to address City Council regarding the 2013 sidewalk replacement program. Yeah, please. Please do.
Mr. Mayor, this is our 16th year.
Oh, yeah, I should have asked you
for
to
the
introduce it.
sidewalk replacement program.
Yep.
Last year, council had asked me to look into possibly making some modifications and determine what the cost would be to no longer charge residents for sidewalk that was damaged due to street trees. The engineer Matt Davis and I have visited some sites, looked at some historical data. The cost is approximately $5,000 to $10,000 a year for if the city were to absorb those costs. This year, the cost would be just under $9,000 if the city were to absorb those costs. Some of the homes that are being assessed, because this is the 16th year, have actually been assessed multiple times for trees that are buckling the sidewalk. You know, they've been assessed multiple times for the replacement of that sidewalk damaged by a tree. So naturally, when we go to visit the residents or property owners' place, they ask for the tree to be cut down. And so, you know, many of these trees are landmark trees. The city has a desire to keep its canopy. It provides a greater community benefit. So with I'd like to recommend to council that we absorb those costs, and as part of the normal DPW budget, as far as tree care and tree removal, you know, the cost really, there will be no additional cost in our budget for us to do that because we are making substantial savings in other ways. So that's my recommendation.
Okay.
Matt, if you have anything further?
Good evening.
Good evening, Matt.
I'm Matt Davis with Giffords Webster. I'm working on the 2013 sidewalk replacement program. This is my third year, and just to give a little background on the project, when the project first started approximately 16 years ago, the city the city was broken into 10 different sidewalk districts. Each year, we do one of the sidewalk districts and go through and assess the sidewalks to see if there are any trip hazards, cracked, broken sidewalk, or other defects, and basically document that and then try and get everything repaired and up to date so that it's more safe and reduces the lawsuits and costs of the city and taxpayers. This year's project actually goes from West 8 Mile to West 9 Mile, or West Marshall, and then from Pinecrest to Woodward, and then also the properties along Livernois from West Marshall down to 8 Mile. These sidewalks were walked and inspected last fall, and we put the documents out for bid. We received bids back on May 9th, and this is all the information we have is based off of those bids. I would also like to add that as part of this sidewalk program, at the same time we go to each district, the city goes through and upgrades the sidewalk ramps to make them ADA accessible and up to ADA compliance. So I have talked to a number of residents who have called, but I also have a sign-in sheet at the back table. If there's anybody who either I talked to and you would still like a face-to-face meeting, please sign up and we can make that happen. Also, if you haven't contacted me and you would like to meet, please sign up and we'll make sure that we address all your concerns. So, thank you.
And I would point out to the residents, if you haven't been contacted or if there isn't paint on your sidewalk in front, then you are not part of this year's program, or you're in this program, you're in this area but didn't have the sidewalk that was covered. So with that, is there anyone from the public that would like to address the sidewalk program? Yes, sir. Please step up to the microphone.
I have several questions that...
I'm sorry, but you're going to have to. You need to step up to the microphone, sir. I'm sorry, but so that we can all hear you and the folks at home can hear you.
My name is Robert Mangus. I live at 885 West Marshall. I do have several squares that need replacement.
Okay.
It sounds like from your description that the frequency of inspection has changed. Is there a new frequency of inspection that I could expect as a homeowner? every 10 years. Is there record keeping of which blocks are actually repaired? Yeah. So part of the issue that I have, at least potentially, this is the first time that I've been assessed, is it seems like at least one of the areas that needs repair in my house is really the result of not correctly done work in the past. The rest of the block looks great. It's got a corner broken off. This isn't really about the money this time. It's about avoiding having the same thing assessed again as the result of bad workmanship. So
the only thing that I could suggest is that, if there's any concerns whatsoever, once the work is completed or within, a 90-day period of time, if the defect should show up, please report it.
Well, sure.
We will come out, we'll address it,
yeah,
and we'll most likely make the contractor replace it.
It doesn't seem like 90 days is the right span of time for that. Please understand, this isn't really about acrimony. It's just about, I don't want to have to pay for this job twice for obvious reasons. It seems like the previous owner probably did pay to have this very job done within a span of time that one would assume that the product would last.
Correct. And I would just like to add, as part of the contract, we do have a maintenance and guarantee bond with the contract, which covers issues like that.
Right.
I believe in this contract, I believe it's 2 years. So if there is an issue, feel free to contact the city, and we can make sure that we get with the contractor, make sure that everything is addressed.
Excellent. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Robert. Appreciate it. Anyone else here that would like to address the sidewalk replacement program? Yes, please. Come on up. Give us your name and address if you don't mind.
Hi, my name's Darlene Berger. I have a home on Dover Street. And my question is just, what are the criteria for selecting the squares to be replaced? Because I have a couple that, like 3 of them that were marked A and B. I don't really know what the A and B means. But it seems like the criteria are pretty strict because it's just a little crack in the corner on all 3 of the squares. And, to me it seems like a car that you've had for several years and there's not really that much wrong with it, maybe a cosmetic little bump here or there. And it's not a situation in front of our house where it's a tripping hazard or anything like that. It seems level. And I have some pictures if you want to look at them on my iPad.
Do you want to speak to?
Yes, actually per property, I have actually an inspection sheet for each property which shows. You could identify what definitely. And just to let everybody know, an A would be a trip hazard or a stubber, which would be any difference in elevation between 2 flags, which is a ½ inch or greater. A B would be a broken or cracked sidewalk. And I mean, if you would, please sign up and I can come out and we can meet and go over any concerns that you have.
Yeah, so here's the first one. It's just up in the upper corner here, a tiny crack there. The rest of it is complete. The second one, same thing. It's in this small area, covers 2 sidewalks.
Right.
So these are, like, in my opinion,
and that is
very minor flaws.
Definitely something I would like to meet again. Actually physically take a look at it and we can go over it. But yes, I mean does have a corner missing from the flags, and that's what it was marked for. I know in the past that's been the criteria, so we just try and meet the criteria that's been set forth by City Council previously. So
okay, look, like the criteria is like a crack, any crack at all?
Cracked or broken, correct.
Okay. Not like of a certain length or anything like that.
Yeah, do you have their address? If you want to have them.
Does this require replacing the entire thing? I hope not.
Based on that, it is showing that. But like I said, if you would like to sign up, I would be more than happy to stop by and take a look at it.
Okay,
it's
and
a little
then
easier to see
if you come over and look at it, then what are our options?
Well,
we're just going to talk about it, and then we still have to replace it, or
no, we can
are there options?
So, I work with the city, and based on our input, we make the decision.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Lucky we can't call people in contempt of court or something. Is there anyone else who would like to address the council regarding the sidewalk program? Yes, sir. Well, we've got a couple, but ma'am, go ahead, come ahead, and then this gentleman can be next. That wasn't your phone, was it?
No, it wasn't.
I'm teasing you. That's you're.
My name is Muriel Hukel, and I'm representing Zion Lutheran Church.
Okay.
In Ferndale.
Yes.
And my question is, just do you know who the contractor is?
Yes. Well, we know who the low bidder is. The contract has not been awarded. So at this point, we know who the low bidder is, which is Georgie Concrete LLC out of Detroit.
Okay.
And this would actually be their third year performing the sidewalk replacement program for the city of Ferndale.
So they might get it.
They're next on the
They'll
agenda.
probably get- Okay.
That's next on the agenda.
Okay, thank you.
Uh-huh. Yes, sir. Come on up and give us your name and address if you don't mind. Could you come up to, I'm sorry, come up to the microphone, sir.
Matt Powinski, 902 Alberta.
Good evening.
I guess listening, who actually came and looked at the pieces and spray painted the letters on them?
That would be one of my inspectors.
Okay.
Givels Webster is our engineer on this project.
So I can sign up, and you will personally come back?
Definitely.
Cool.
I personally, myself, will come and help that with you.
Okay. And then I guess my only issue with it is I'm all for repairing the sidewalks, but in front on Alberta and Livernois, the city ripped up the street and I don't know if repaired some sewer pipes or something, and that is still pretty patchy. So I mean, if a half-inch grade in my sidewalk is a hazard, hopefully the street will be repaired to the same level.
You got the head guy sitting right next to you, so at Alberta and Livernois, we'll take a look at it, because that shouldn't be.
Okay.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Okay.
All right. And then the sign-up sheet is in the back, did you say, Matt? Yeah. All right. Very good.
Katie Hirschberger, 750 West Maplehurst. Having sat through years of listening to the sidewalk discussion, I want to say thank you to the DPW and the decision not to recharge people for tree roots that have upheaved their sidewalks. Because I know for many, many years this has been an issue that's come up over and over and over again. And I just want to say thank you to the DPW for taking that into consideration.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyway, some people agree with you. Anyone else would like to address council regarding the sidewalk replacement program for 2013? All right, I'm going to close the public hearing portion. And now, council, it is your opportunity to ask questions, comments.
Through the chair?
Yeah.
I mostly have a comment.
Mm-hmm.
To echo Katie Hirschberger's comments about talking about the sidewalk program, the 3.5 years I've been on council. And I wanted to thank our DPW Director Lloyd, because he and I had a conversation months and months ago. I'm like, we have a disincentive in our sidewalk placement program for not planting trees. We're encouraging people not to plant trees by having that in there. And so he came up with a solution. And so when you hire great talent, you really get new solutions and ideas. And so I just wanted to give a shout out to Lloyd for making those suggestions and bringing them to council.
Councilman
Just
Galloway.
2 questions. The city replacement of sidewalk flags disrupted by street trees ended in 2001. Do we know why? Just because of the cost, and it was $5,000 or $10,000? Or was it greater at that time?
Back then, I'm not sure what it was. I know it was budget related. I wasn't.
Yeah, if you don't mind, because then the folks at home can hear as well.
Yes, I wasn't around back in 2001, but from all the conversations I've had with people, it was eliminated due to budgets. So I'm not sure exactly how much it was costing at that time. You know, we've gone through each of these districts a couple times now, and based on the inspection that we did last fall, we know how many trees there are in that area. We went through each detailed inspection property. You know, we have one sheet per property. We went through and figured out the total quantities of everything, and that's what that number, just under $9,000 this year.
And those sheets were all mailed to every house, right?
The assessments were, which gives the quantities and stuff. The actual inspection sheets that we write on, those, we have those, but those don't get sent out.
But something describing the damage of why people are going to be charged and how it was all
correct.
Was sent to everybody in the district.
That is correct. It will basically give a code, and then if you look at the sheet, there's a spot on the right-hand side which says A would be a stubber, a trip hazard, B would be cracked or broken sidewalk, and there's different items, but yes.
And the numbers, the actual amounts people are being charged are really down significantly, all low three-figure sums for the most part. Is that reflective of just the 16th year of the program and things going through, or is that part of the grinding process or the things that we do to keep the costs down for homeowners?
I would say all in all, I think it's because every 10 years we're going through and we're hitting the sidewalks that have defects. So hopefully, you know, it continues to go down. Obviously, there's certain things, if somebody drives on a sidewalk and it cracks, it doesn't matter how many times you go through and replace it. But a lot of the older sidewalk, you know, it's been getting replaced, so we're seeing a lot newer sidewalk and stuff seems to be holding up pretty well.
And then finally, last year, I know Lloyd and I had this conversation several times, but Georgie was a contractor last time. And it seemed to me that in the last sidewalk district, which I'm fairly familiar with, just an excessive amount of graffiti and sort of over-the-top graffiti. You know, it didn't seem as though, to me, that Georgie took steps to really time the cement pours and such to minimize that. Has that been addressed with them? And I understand there were going to be some holdbacks on the bond to get those replaced, and what's the schedule for that?
Yes. Actually, I've been in contact with Georgie multiple times. They were going to come out and take care of it this spring. However, they were the low bidder this year, so they would like to come out and replace that sidewalk at the same time that they're doing this year's program if it gets awarded. And so it's just a timing thing. They would already have their equipment in here and go out and replace it. I do know for a fact that, you know, with timing the sidewalk, whether the kids are in school or the kids are out of school, you know, they're walking on sidewalks. A lot of times, I mean, you can take a piece of rebar or stick quite a while after it's been poured and still put your initials in there. They did also contact the police department quite a few times just to say, hey, we're seeing a lot of stuff happening here. Can you help patrol the area? Because, you know, obviously they don't want to see it happen either because it's their name on the line.
Yeah, it just seemed like an excessive amount last time, and it seemed as though the cement pour started in early fall, maybe, when kids were getting back in school. It just seemed like more than in the past. So I would hope they would be mindful of that or else work with the school district to figure out routes where there's a lot of kids coming down. So
right.
We got Pinecrest on that group and up Livernois. So
definitely, and I do know this. There is the school right there in that area, and unfortunately, the timing last year they had to start later in order to, because of sometimes the process it takes to get to the contract awarded and signed and everything. This year we're actually looking at starting. It's probably going to be the middle to end of July. So we should be able to do it in the summertime, which, on the other hand, you have kids out of school who will be walking around. So it's just a matter of, you know, we've reiterated them the concerns. They are aware of it because we have quite a list that they have to come back and replace because of it. So, and they are doing it. So.
May I ask, besides the graffiti, what kind of quality control do you have in place? And since we've had them for 3 years, how's this vendor performed against your expectations?
They try and leave somebody behind, but with the nature of the work, you may have, on one street, you may have 10 flags of sidewalk, and you would almost have to leave. They're doing multiple streets at the same time in order to get the production, get in, make as minimal disturbance within the community as possible, get in, get out. So it's really hard for them. They're trying, they're having one of the foremen or a couple guys drive around and just keep an eye on the stuff, but, they have not left somebody at each spot just due to the cost and the amount of employees you'd have to have.
Let me rephrase my question. As our engineer, have you found their quality to be acceptable over the last 3 years?
Yes.
Okay.
And actually, other than the ones with the graffiti, we have had compliments, and I know, Lloyd wasn't here the year before on their first year. Roseanne could probably attest to the amount of people that were very satisfied. I know in years past, they kind of seemed to drag out, trying to get the contractor to get in, get the job done, and, move on.
Ron, let me say this is probably appropriate for the next agenda item, because that's when we're actually going to take up that contract.
Okay. I have one more then with this one then, if
Yeah.
that's all right. Procedurally, I noticed in the replacement program document that's here doesn't encompass Lloyd's recommendation. Is that something we have to take as a separate motion procedurally once we get into it, or?
That was going to be my question as well. It's not reflected that the idea of.
Add it to the motion. We can just add it to the motion.
We could add that to the motion. All right.
Great.
Other comments or questions of council? If not, a motion would be in order.
I would move that we approve the resolution to proceed with the 2013 sidewalk replacement program, that the city clerk be authorized to sign that resolution with the recommendation of the DPW for the city to pay for pay for those defects caused by city trees.
I support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Piana. Any additional discussion, questions, comments?
Just a sort of housekeeping thing. This is not going to be a separate line item. We're not creating a line item in your budget for this tree or sidewalk replacement for city trees. This is just, but the money has to come from somewhere. How are we going to reflect that? And I think it's a great thing. I support it. Everybody up here does. But I think you could imagine a situation where we got into a situation where we felt as though we couldn't afford it for some reason. If the line item doesn't appear in the budget, it's hard for us to monitor that.
And I'm sorry, Lloyd, but yeah, if you, yep.
From my discussion with the engineers from previous years, the dollar amounts do seem to be between $5,000 and $10,000. I guess it would be council's decision whether or not we would be obligated to remove a tree, a city tree, if it was causing a sidewalk to be damaged. Removing a substantial tree alone is a couple of $1,000s, plus eventually we're going to be replacing trees. So all in all, the costs in general are more or less, they're similar.
Sort of wash.
Yes, exactly.
And it's something that we would monitor perhaps by the number of flags we were replacing rather than an item in your budget. So if it got to be where every other flag or something was being city replaced, then we would have to.
Exactly. And an industrial area may not have as much canopy, as a residential area. Mm-hmm. It may not have the established trees. Costs will vary from year to year, but $10,000 seems to be a good number, and $10,000 we can easily make adjustments, in the department's budget, whether it be in tree removal or even, the fact that we're not planting those trees that we're taking down. And so the costs, as I said, are pretty much a wash.
Okay, thanks.
And I think, Councilwoman Piana, your point was a good one. We're actually incentivizing people to take these trees down so that they don't have the future expenses, when what we want to be doing is encouraging people to leave trees grow and become, healthy, mature trees. So it makes sense to me that we would modify our policy. So it's I support that as well. Any further comments? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Certainly. Council members Piana?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Now, moving on to the second public hearing, which is the sidewalk replacement bid award. This is now to potentially hire the contractor for the sidewalk replacement program. I understand 5 bids were received, and the low bid was Georgie Concrete, who, as we've mentioned, was the contractor for the last 3 years. And so I will open up the public hearing. Is there anyone from the public that would like to address council on the award of the contractor's bid for the sidewalk replacement program? All right, seeing none, I'll close the public hearing, and I'll open it up to council for your pleasure on this item. Or, Lloyd, is there anything, I obviously very briefly said, I introduced this, but is there anything I should add to that? Okay. If not, a motion would be in order.
I move to approve the bid of $304,212 of Georgie Concrete to replace sidewalk and handicap ramps from West 8 Mile to West 9 Mile along Livernois, Emwell, Alberta, east of Beaufield, and West Marshall to West 9 Mile from Pinecrest to Woodward, and to charge a sidewalk expense of $99,618 to the appropriate account and the ADA ramp expense to its appropriate account.
Support.
Moved by, supported, it's by Piana, supported by Galloway. Comments, questions on this item? No, only to reiterate that not only were they the low bidder, but we have, from our engineers, been satisfied with their work, and I think that's been the general consensus. They've done a good job for us for the last 2 years, and happy to see they were still the low bidder, so I don't see any reason to switch at this point. If there's no further discussion, Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Next item would be call to audience. Call to audience is your opportunity to speak to council on any item that's not on the agenda, because you can speak to that when we get to it on the agenda. This is 3 minutes of all your time to speak on any item. It's not a debate, so we'll give you the entire 3 minutes without responding. But just come on up, give us your name, your address, and the 3 minutes are yours. Jeannie Davis.
Cool. Jeannie Davis, President of Ferndale Seniors. Wednesday, the 26th at 11 a.m. at the Kulik Center, we will be hosting the Royal Oak Bell Ringers, and they have a wonderful repertoire. Everybody loves them. It's free. You don't have to be a senior. Come and enjoy it. And beforehand, we have our very own Cheryl Lynn coming, and she's going to explain everything you were afraid to ask about absentee voting.
Excellent.
Thank you. And by the way, I think the DDA did a wonderful, wonderful job. That was such a great event Friday night.
Thanks. Thank you. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. My name is Joe Munum, 6200 Elmwood Street, Sterling Heights, Michigan. And I'm here today on behalf of Rizzo Environmental Services to discuss the South Oakland County Resource Recovery bid that's currently out. So we're trying to inform all the communities of something that's occurred, and recently SACRA has put out a bid for pricing to all the communities, of which Ferndale is a member community. And there are 3 waste haulers in SACRA, of which Rizzo Services is one. When the bid came back, the only hauler that had bid was Rizzo Services. Now, what we offered for the city of Ferndale amounts to a 8% reduction, which I believe is $367,000 over the course of an 4-year agreement. We're also offering a lump sum upfront payment of $400,000. And given all the financial hardships that communities are going through, we realized this would be something that could be very beneficial. Apparently, the other haulers are objecting to this process because they did not bid and they do not believe that SACRA was able to open up this contract for rates. We completely believe that they are able to do that, In fact, we are so confident, we are stating that if there were a lawsuit brought by the other haulers about this contract, that we're willing to indemnify soccer and the member communities and pay for the legal defense. We are that confident in their ability to open up these bids. We provided a letter to, I think the clerk very graciously distributed it beforehand.
Yep.
And if there are any questions, we're happy to answer them. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else like to address council? Katie?
You just can't keep quiet.
Yeah.
Having the opportunity to read the article in the Woodward Talk about the renovations that are coming to the court and the police station and the city hall is involved with that. I've never had the opportunity to be at the court, which I guess is good. I have had the opportunity to have a complete tour of the police station, and I agreed then that it needed renovation. But I'm especially pleased that there is no money coming out of the general fund to cover any of these costs or renovations, because I was a member of that financial planning committee that did recommend the tax increase to make sure our city stayed stable in these times of changing property values. And I'm so pleased that no money is coming out of the general fund, and I thank the city for that. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else here that would like to address council this evening? Yes, sir. Come on up to the mic. Give us your name and address if you don't mind.
Name is Paul Kish, 707 West Hazelhurst. One thing I would like to compliment Matt here on the way that he handled an issue with the sidewalk. The other issue is that I have received a letter from April Lynch, and there's an issue with the house behind me that, as far as I can see, is not being addressed at this point. And I'm not real happy with that. I mean, I would like to at least sit down and try to figure out what we can do. Basically, I wanted to introduce myself. I don't know any of you except for Dan Crest. I hope we can get something resolved.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Thanks for coming. Anyone else? All right. If not, we'll move on to the next item of business, which would be our consent agenda. Consent agenda are items that council considers routine, and we enact in one motion unless something is pulled from the consent agenda by council. But first, I will read the consent agenda. Item A is the approval of the minutes of the regular meeting held June 10, 2013. Item B is the approval of the special event permit for Pig and Whiskey on July 19th, 20th, and 21st to be located on East Troy Street, Falvey parking lot, and the west section of the library parking lot. Item C is the approval of the special event permit for Green Cruise on Saturday, August 10th from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., contingent upon the stipulations detailed in the special events directory summary. Item D, approval of the special event permit for 2013 Ferndale Woodward Dream Cruise on August 15th, 16th, and 17th. Mark your calendars. Item E is the approval of a special event permit for the Great Real Movie Night Series on July 18th, August 15th, and September 19th. Item F is to receive the expenditure report on court and police renovation project expenses to date. G is the approval to accept the Maximus security specifications and cost estimate for $4,265 as submitted by our fire chief. And finally, approval of the bills and payroll as submitted by the city manager's office, subject to the review of the council finance committee. What is council's pleasure on the consent agenda this evening?
I would move that we accept the consent agenda as presented.
Support. Moved by Martin, supported by Galloway. Is there discussion on the consent agenda? I do have one question, and that is, I know that we are beginning to enforce our noise ordinance for special events, as we talked about at Pride was sort of the experiment, and I think that went well, and so I see that we are now including that, and I applaud that. I think we have a noise ordinance for a reason. And just one question, in that it didn't apply to the Get Real movie night, and do we Is that, I don't know who would address that. Is there a reason why the Get Real movie night is not subject to the noise ordinance?
We didn't feel that we needed, it wasn't loud enough last year.
Equipment isn't that loud?
Yep, it wasn't that loud, so we didn't need it last year. We don't anticipate it being that loud this year again, so we didn't request it.
I appreciate that. I thought that's probably what the answer is. I would just say, and other people on council can weigh in with their opinions, but my view is now is if Pride was the experiment, and my understanding is they did not exceed the noise level, so that was fine, then those decibel levels that we have in our ordinance should just now be included as a matter of routine in our special events. I don't think that needs to be a special decision of council. I know you're starting to do that now, so I guess I would just reiterate that I think that's the appropriate way to go. That should just be part of the special events requirement, unless a special exception for a special reason has been made by one of the applicants, like their equipment doesn't go that high, for instance. So I just wanted to make that clarification. Any other comments or discussion on consent agenda? From audience as well. If not, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Piana?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. The consent agenda is adopted. Thank you. Moving on now to the regular agenda, item A. In just a minute, because I buried my agenda. Thank you. Consideration of ordinance number 1144 to amend Chapter 2, Administration, Article 8, Environmental Sustainability Commission of the Ferndale Code of Ordinances. Do you want, Melanie, Councilwoman Piana, do you want to introduce that item? I know you've been our liaison and done a lot of work with the FESC, as they are affectionately referred to. You want to introduce that item?
Yes, thank you. The revision of the ordinance is ready for council's approval and consideration tonight after working collaboratively with city staff and FESC members to revisit the purpose and intent of the FESC. The FESC was formally created by City Council in July of 2009, and in that ordinance at the time was a sunset of December 2012. And the sunset came by, and in January I was contacted by some FESC members and said, will you help us out? We need to take a step back and look at how do we better connect what the interests are of FESC members with the goals and projects that City Council and the city are planning for its sustainability efforts. So this is a culmination of a lot of work with quite a few people to come up with the best proposal based off of the circumstances where we are now with city staff, and with the 3 years under the belt with FESC members of what they've learned and what they did and what they implemented on behalf of the city. So let me just kind of present what is new and changed, and then how we went about coming up with those changes in a little bit more detail. So what you have before you today is a refreshed purpose intent, and we did some brainstorming with FESC members to come up with, well, what should the FESC be working on, and how do we clarify the purpose with more intention. We removed specific state and federal programs as something to follow, because those programs come and go. They end. And so our sustainability goals for the city will not end, and we will look to the best program that is available at the time to participate in that meets the needs of the community. We reduced the membership size from 11 to 7 up to 9. So that's in the ordinance too, and that was to better manage majority for the members who would come, and also have a smaller working group with the city because they're becoming more advisory in nature. We also looked at some of the mechanics of the ordinance. For example, the FESC had a secretary. We moved the secretary. The FESC did not have a city staff liaison or a city council liaison. So in essence, they were out doing essential work, but had some disconnections with the direction of where the city was going. And so we addressed that head on. And now, as part of the way forward, April, our city manager, has come up with city staff to work directly with the FESC members. So I think the real true change is that it's becoming more advisory in nature versus and helping out with the city on specific projects versus the FESC coming up with their own projects all the time in hopes that they will be in the direction where the city wants to go. So I guess they did great work, but became a little frustrated because there was a little disconnect. So how did we go all about this? And I think that's important. I really tried to take a collaborative approach to this. We, over 2 months, we brainstormed interests with the FESC members. We literally had sticky notes on the wall of what did they care about, what did they want the city to work on for its sustainability goals, and tried to align that by state, federal, and local needs. We also worked through the mechanics of the ordinance and what they found some of the challenges with it. And I wrote and proposed a new draft for city input and handed it off to Joe in April, who then made their edits and went through Dan, and then obviously I spoke with all of you, and then it went back to the FESC a couple weeks ago for their comment and input on the draft proposal, which is what you see marked up in red today. So I feel like we have a really great path forward. I feel like this ordinance addresses all the interests, councils, to make sure that we are working collaboratively with the group, that they have a staff liaison, and that they're connected with our sustainability goals as a community. So I really feel like we have done a very thorough and deliberate approach to addressing the challenges here.
Thank you. Are there questions of council? Questions of clarification, otherwise a motion to begin the deliberations.
I would move that we adopt ordinance 1144 regarding the FESC and to appeal regulatory provisions and other ordinances inconsistent with this ordinance.
Support.
Moved by Galloway, supported by Martin. All right, now, comments, questions?
I just have comments. One comment. I think this is great, and I mentioned this to Councilwoman Piana, but for institutional memory, I would say the sunset provision for this continues to be in this through the end of 2015, and I understand that was as a result of the discussion with the FESC, and I think that's fine. I think in the next iteration of this, as I mentioned, this council, or I imagine any, is not going to consider this a priority. So at some point, I would like to see the sunset provision sunset. Yes. So we don't have it anymore, but I understand because it's newly rewritten, we want to just try it, one more time. So, but otherwise, this is great. Thanks.
Yep, I completely concur. So, but the FESC members wanted to have the formal period in which we step back again and say, are we on the right path? Is this working? I also wanted to say that I also contacted other cities who have environmental sustainability commissions, and we were not atypical. So this is a common challenge with many cities with their environmental sustainability commissions of how do you align the interests of the members who are fantastic environmentalists and want to help their community with where the city is going and the capacity of city staff in order to oversee that. So we aren't an anomaly.
Well, go ahead. I was just going to say, this differs significantly, I think, from the original one, and really helps to harness the talents and skills of our populace in a lot better way than it did originally. And when we put talented volunteers from the city of Ferndale to a task like this, we end up typically getting very good results and then coming up with ideas that lead the region. So thank you, Councilwoman Piana, for spearheading this, and I think it's a great revision.
And then my final comments, if I may, I would like to thank the FESC members for working with us and having patience as we work through this over the last 6 months. But I want to particularly give a shout out to Helena. I always say it Helena, thank you. Helena and Doug Christie, who reached out to me and brought me to the table.
Well, I knew, Councilwoman, that if we put you on this, we would get a very thorough job. And that just goes without saying, and clearly you have, and I really appreciate it. And I know it's taken a little longer than maybe we originally anticipated, but I think you've done some outstanding work here. It was, you know, for me, I was new 2.5 years ago, and it wasn't crystal clear to me. I knew we had some passionate and smart people on the FESC, and I knew as a city we had some goals to be a greener city, but it wasn't clear how they were working in collaboration with each other. So now I think that is much better defined. I'm excited that the group actually has a concrete plan to get started with that is going to directly feed into the work that we're doing at the city. So I think there's going to be some great tangible work as a result of this, and I appreciate your effort and the folks at the FESC as well.
I did want to mention too, it's in the memo attached to the new ordinance, but the FESC members are going to be helping the city look at their recent municipal energy audits conducted by the Warm Training Center. So definitely diving into some technical work on how we can save energy and money in all of our municipal buildings. So.
And you didn't mention it, but I think you're still looking for a couple more members too, right?
Yes, we are looking for members. We have a few seats open, and if you're interested, you can apply online. I would give you the link, but it's going to change tonight. So go online tomorrow and go to boards and commissions, I believe, and you'll be able to find the application online.
Excellent. Thanks. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmembers Galloway?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That ordinance is adopted. Moving on to our next item of business, consideration of ordinance number 1145 to amend Chapter 9, Fire Prevention and Protection, to add Article 4, Fireworks, Section 9 through 50 through 9 through 53 to the Ferndale Code of Ordinances. And I guess I'll introduce this item because I brought this forward. In 2011, the Michigan legislature changed the state firework laws to allow both for more powerful, if you will, fireworks, and they removed the local community's abilities to both regulate those fireworks and to restrict the hours that they could be used. Last year, the 4th of July felt to some, including myself, more like a war zone than a celebration. It seemed to be far in excess of anything that we thought that the legislature expected. So at the end of the celebrations last year, a group of mayors actually in South Oakland County lobbied the legislature to do some sort of revisions to that legislation, give us some ability as local communities to control these fireworks. They passed a bill just last week that gave us a small amount of ability to control them. There's still the nature of the types of fireworks that can be used is still a state issue, but the legislature granted local communities who wanted to take advantage of the opportunity the ability to limit the fireworks use from midnight to 8 a.m. and from 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. on New Year's Eve. So the dates don't change. Folks can still use the fireworks the day before, on a holiday, and the day after a holiday, on all the major holidays, but they allowed cities to if they so chose, to add the restriction of no fireworks from midnight to 8 a.m. Dan, did I cover that?
No, just, Your Honor, just it's 1 a.m. to 8 a.m. on New Year's Day.
Oh, New Year's Day, not New Year's Eve. Thank you very much for that. And so this law was just passed, this bill was just signed by the governor's office last week, and so if we were going to get this changed in Ferndale in time for the 4th of July this year, we needed to do it tonight, so I asked Dan Christ to revise our ordinance for consideration of council tonight, and essentially what it would do is allow us to do what the legislature has granted us the permission to do, which would be to outlaw fireworks from midnight to 8 a.m. the day before, the day of, and the day after the holidays stipulated in the state law.
Your Honor, if I could, there was one other change in the State Act which indicated that the penalty with respect to that provision, which currently was a misdemeanor, is now consistent with the state statute, Public Act 65, now a civil infraction, punishable by up to a fine of $500.
Thank you. That's correct. So that is the item before you and the rationale for the proposed change to our fireworks ordinance. Are there questions about that?
I move to adopt ordinance number 1145, amending Chapter 9, Fire Prevention and Protection to add Article 4, Fireworks, Sections 9 through 50 through 9 through 53 to the Code of Ordinances of the City of Ferndale.
Support.
Moved by Piana, supported by Galloway. Now, questions, comments on that item?
Just related discussion. Do we know which of our neighbors have adopted this or attempt to adopt this as well? For example, has Royal Oak Township, Oak Park, or Hazel Park picked this up?
The mayor of Hazel Park is here. Tomorrow, Hazel Park is going to take it up. My understanding is the city of Royal Oak is also planning to do this. I don't know about the township or Oak Park.
Or Pleasant Ridge.
Or Pleasant Ridge. Yeah.
No, thank you. I appreciate that. I think it is a small community, and it's more effective if our neighbors get on this train with us.
Right. It was such a late,
Yeah.
just last Thursday is when
Right.
the governor's office signed this legislation. So I'm not sure what the other communities are doing yet. Oh, yeah. Our fire marshal has a response. And the police chief want to talk. And please, everyone need to do that.
We would also like to take this opportunity to remind the residents that you are not allowed to expend fireworks on public property. That includes parks, roadways, streets. This state law and now ordinance only allows for private property use of fireworks. Although we're not 100% in favor of that for safety reasons, but we do want to remind, there was some confusion last year. Folks thought that they could go into the city parks and light off commercial fireworks as well as in the roadway in front of their home, and that is still prohibited.
Thank you for that reminder. Fire Marshal.
Mayor and Council, I want to thank you very much for taking a proactive stance on this. Obviously, safety is one issue, and obviously the ordinance is going to go a long way to hopefully control the fireworks going off all night long. As far as the township, Royal Oak Township, I will check with them tomorrow.
Thank you.
To see what they're planning on doing.
Very helpful, thanks.
Last year, enforcement over there was very difficult. It's just the state police did not have enough people over there to control the fireworks. They were shooting them off all over the place. So we will try to get a handle on that this year and see what we can do.
Thank you.
So.
Yeah.
So I've got a question perhaps for Dan and yourself, Brian. What if we observe folks using them inappropriately in dangerous ways, directing them towards houses, shooting them too close or underneath the tree canopy? I mean, I can't, it sounds like that's all legal stuff to do, but what's our response as neighbors when we see, folks down the street endangering, life and property through the legal use maybe of these fireworks?
It is a huge issue for us. Obviously, anything goes up in the air. We urge the public to be very cognizant of where it's going to land, especially in your neighbor's property. They do cause fires. They do damage to a lot of people's homes and a lot of our commercial buildings. If there's somebody that's deliberately doing something that is unsafe, by all means, call the police department or the fire department. We'll send somebody over to try and control that activity. The law allows people to use these, but not in unsafe manners or for destructive purposes. So we'll handle that as we get need to handle those types of situations. So.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
The other thing I would say is because this is a change so soon before the holidays, and I assume not everyone in town watches city council meetings, can we just make sure that we have this up on our Facebook, our website, our television monitors, use our communication channels to make sure people are aware of the midnight to 8 a.m. ban?
But if I may, enacting this tonight, I think I know the answer. I just want to make sure I'm right. Enacting this tonight will make it in force on the July 4th holiday. There's not a communication notice that has to occur between now and when we can enforce it.
There's a publication requirement, but that, I assume, will take place prior to...
On Wednesday.
Yes.
And that's plenty of time. And
yes.
Okay. Great. Thank you.
Good. All right. If there's no further questions or comments, Madam Clerk, would you call the roll, please?
Council members Martin?
Yes.
Piana?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Regular agenda item C is the consideration of non-union administrative employee benefits, and our HR manager is going to address that one for us this evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. As you know, over the last month or so, we concluded our negotiations with our 2 police unions as well as our fire union, and we felt it appropriate that we evaluate the benefits for our non-union full-time administrative staff members at this time. So what you have before you is a request to, it mirrors very similarly what the other contract for police and fire, what those contracts provide. In addition to that, we are also going to, at Council's request, evaluate and put together a plan to begin to offer domestic partner benefits through our Blue Cross Blue Shield health care coverage. So we're going to work together to put a policy together for that for a January 1 or sooner if available effective date. So that's it.
Questions of Jenny on this item? Or a motion?
I'd move that we approve the aforementioned modifications to non-union administrative employees' benefits effective July 1st, 2013.
Is there support?
Support.
Moved by Martin, supported by Piana. Comments, questions?
Well, I just, it got sort of stuck in there at the end, but I think it's an important development in the city of Ferndale, one, frankly, that I think we're all a little surprised Ferndale hasn't implemented, which is domestic partner benefits for city employees. This was something that was spearheaded, or really pushed by Councilman Martin, to his great, to our great benefit, but to his great, I guess, accolade. Thank you, Dan, for pushing that. It's something long past due.
Thanks.
And appropriate that it's June that we're doing it. It's Gay Pride Month officially in Ferndale, so we will begin the process of having domestic partner benefits, which is wonderful. And I would also just mention that, so now that we've settled all of the rest of the collective bargaining agreements, this is in line with what we've done with our represented employees. So it's fair and consistent with the rest of what the employees are going to get, and seem appropriate to make that change at this time. So thanks for your work on it, Jenny. Sure. Any other comments? Madam Clerk, could you call the roll, please?
Council members Piana?
Yes.
Galloway?
Yes.
Martin?
Yes.
Mayor Coulter?
Yes, thank you. That item is adopted. Moving on to item D, a Housing Commission presentation, and April Lynch is going to
I'll open it.
introduce this item.
I would like to introduce Deborah Wilson, who is the Executive Director of the Ferndale Housing Commission. Over the last year or two, I know, actually I can say a year or two now, almost in August, a few questions have come up about the Housing Commission and just how things are going for them over there and the role that City Council has. So we thought it was a great opportunity to have Deb be able to come and give kind of an overview of the Housing Commission and offer a chance for questions and answers and things of that nature. So with that, we'll let her get started.
You've waited for us all night. We can wait for you for a minute. Thanks for being here, Deborah. Appreciate your patience.
Again, my name is Deborah Wilson, and for the past 26 and a half years of my life, I have served as the Executive Director of the Ferndale Housing Commission. I have seen many changes over the years, but I want to first thank the Mayor and the City Council for allowing me this opportunity. I think the last time I had the opportunity to present before this group was in the mid-'90s. And it was a lot of different faces, so it's nice to be back.
All different from the,
yeah. It's nice to have a city manager that has invited me back, and I would like to extend my thanks to City Manager Lynch for that as well. The Ferndale Housing Commission was enacted in 1969 pursuant to Public Act 548 of the City Council. It was actually passed on February 13th of 1969. It was in response to the State of Michigan's Act, Housing Facilities Act, that was passed in 1933. It has operated continuously throughout that time. The Commission operates two main programs for low-income families and individuals that reside within our community and/or within our jurisdiction.
Oh, up there.
If I point that way, it'll work better.
There you go.
It worked, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'm sorry. The first program is the public housing program. Public housing consists of two main properties for the elderly disabled, and those are Withington West and Autumn House. Autumn House was built in connection with a collaborative effort between the City of Ferndale and the Housing Commission in 1976. Autumn House is located on 9 Mile Road. It consists of approximately 48,000 square foot of space on a 1-acre parcel. It includes 32,000 square foot of dwelling area. Autumn House consists primarily of 50 one-bedroom apartments and 5 two-bedroom apartments that are earmarked for the elderly, disabled, and handicapped. And when I say earmarked, if our waiting list is exhausted of the elderly and disabled, we will move on to single individuals as well. Withington West was constructed in 1982 and is a 70-unit apartment building located on Withington West. It's a 6-story building that incorporates a little over 60,000 square foot of dwelling and community area. It's located also on a 1.18 acre parcel of land. Withington West consists entirely of all one-bedroom apartments. In addition to the scattered sites, and for some reason I neglected to put a bullet point up here, the Housing Commission also operates 43 scattered site houses that are located throughout the City of Ferndale. The scattered site houses consist of 15 two-bedrooms, 16 three-bedrooms, 7 four-bedroom units, and they are incorporated within the 2 square miles of the City of Ferndale. Under the public housing program, residents pay their rent directly to the Housing Commission. We do act as a landlord. We are the owner of the properties. So therefore, we are responsible for the upkeep and the maintenance of the properties as well. Oh, I did put the bullet point here. I'm sorry about that. There's 25 of those housing, scattered site housing units were built in 1976 at the same time as the Autumn House building. Back in the days when the U.S. Department of HUD and the general community called them projects, they were built under one project number. We no longer like to use the word project. We would prefer to use properties or residencies. The 25 original houses were built in 1976 along with Autumn House. In the early 90s, in 1992, we received a grant through the U.S. Department of HUD to substantially rehab an additional 18 scattered site houses that we purchased from private owners throughout the City of Ferndale, and we did a substantial rehab, and we converted them also to public housing. There are there are three main rentals or operating income and funding sources for the public housing program. The main public housing income that we receive is our rental income. Our average rental income is $186 a month. So without doing the math, it's obvious that we cannot operate on $186 per month per unit. That's our average rental income. To offset our operating expenses, our utilities, HUD provides us with what is called federal subsidies. The federal subsidies are intended to close the gap between our rental incomes and our actual operating expenses. HUD is under what is called an annual contributions contract with the Housing Commission to provide us enough subsidy to offset that gap. Unfortunately, when we signed the contract, we did not take into consideration the appropriations process, and we have not always received the appropriate amount that we're entitled to. In addition to that, we do receive capital fund. It's called the Capital Fund Program. The Capital Fund Program is intended to help us with our maintenance and our modernization needs. Again, we have seen a decline in our Capital Fund Program over the past 5 years especially, as you can imagine, with the economy. In addition to the public housing program, the Housing Commission also administers what is called a Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program. The Commission first began its involvement under the Section 8 program in 1975 with 20 Section 8 certificates. In 1998, the U.S. Department of HUD abolished the certificate program in favor of the Housing Choice Voucher Program. Families are issued a voucher under this program and provided the opportunity to locate suitable housing in the private sector with the private landlords. Rental subsidies are paid directly to the private landlord at that time on behalf of the family. The Commission has been assigned 975 vouchers under this program. However, our current funding levels only allow for us to help 810 families. So we're only utilizing 810 of those vouchers currently. The beauty, I should say, of the voucher program is that it allows families flexibility to find housing throughout the Ferndale Housing Commission's jurisdiction. It has a built-in mobility criteria. The Housing Commission is required to expand its jurisdiction to incorporate enough housing choices to assist the low-income families. Therefore, the Ferndale Housing Commission's jurisdiction for the Housing Choice Voucher Program does include Wayne County, Oakland County, and Macomb County as well. Families can locate housing anywhere within those 3 counties. The operating income for the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program is twofold. We receive what is called Section 8 administrative fees, which is to allow for operating costs for staff salaries, utilities and such, day-to-day routine operating expenses. We also receive housing assistance payments through the U.S. Department of HUD, and the housing assistance payments allow us to make rental subsidies on behalf of the families. Basically, our role is to help those in need. Both the public housing and the Housing Choice Voucher Program are designed to help low-income families. Most families fall at or below 30% of the median income. On the public housing program, we have some flexibility to go as high as 50% of the median income. It's dependent on when the property was built, and Autumn House does fall under that umbrella. Currently, though, I can estimate that probably 95% of the families that are living in our public housing properties or participating in our Section 8 program are at or below 30% of the median income. The public housing program has an estimated wait list of 1 year, and the Section 8 Housing Choice Voucher Program has an estimated wait list of 2 years. Currently, both waiting lists are closed. We are not accepting applications. The Ferndale Housing Commission and how it relates to the city of Ferndale. It's a five-member board of commissioners that are appointed by the city manager, and that was pursuant to the Ordinance 548 that was approved in 1969. The Housing Commission receives no revenue from the city, and outside of that, we operate with a complete anonymity from the city. The five-member Board of Commissioners does appoint the Executive Director, and the Executive Director does oversee all operations and all facets of the day-to-day administration of both programs. Just a couple current challenges that we're facing, mainly sequestration. Again, we are entirely federally funded. We do not receive any state funds. We don't receive any funding at the local levels as well. Sequestration has had a huge impact this year. The public housing operating funds received an 18% cut under sequestration. There's been no funding level provided for the Public Housing Capital Fund program yet for 2013 at all, and the 2014 fiscal year begins in October. We're not sure right now if it's forthcoming or not. The Section 8 program took a huge hit as well. The Section 8 program took a reduction in its administrative fees of 33%. And as you can imagine, that did require staff layoffs, a lot of reduction in benefits. We are also finding that we're not able currently to do modernization work, maintenance work that we would normally like to do. It's the first time in my career that I am noticing physically a decline in our properties. Future funding currently looks feeble. 2014 predictions are reflecting even more cuts. The Housing Commission continues to work with industry groups to secure funding and encourage our elected officials to recognize the importance of sustaining the public housing stock within the communities. If the public housing stocks begin to decline, it will have an impact negatively on the city as well. And much needed rental assistance for the low-income families. There are some people, maybe not in this group right now, but may recall in 2010, we opened our waiting list, and unbeknownst to me, and it was unpredicted, in less than 4 hours, we had 10,000 people lined up all the way down to Woodward trying to apply for our waiting list. Going forward, we're not sure how we're going to open our waiting list, if we're even going to be able to avoid that problem. Other than that, that concludes my presentation. I would love to answer any questions you may have. I also have several handouts I brought with me if you're interested in those.
Well, thank you very much for that very interesting and thorough presentation. Is there anything, April, you are the appointee of the group. Is there and you've been our liaison, is there anything you want to add to that before I open it up for council's questions?
No, I didn't realize it had been so long since council had an opportunity to talk to Deb and to talk about what's going on in the Housing Commission. They're a big part of our community, and I think that it sounds like moving forward we want to be a greater partner with them, especially as they start to see they're having as many structural deficit issues as we are as well, so it's important to keep that in the forefront.
Questions or comments of council?
Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead. So what, I mean, these are high and noble goals, I think, but if the money's not there, the money's not there. I mean, at some point, if the feds don't resume funding, what's the plan for maintaining your capital stock?
Well, for the public housing program, it's more of a concern, obviously. But if the fundings are not there, quite frankly, to be honest with this group, funding's not available in too many locations at all right now for any type of modernization work. Tax credits have been cut. A lot of programs have been cut. We are making cuts, administratively speaking, to try to offset that loss. We notice, more importantly than anything, that we're not going to be able to do any capital improvements. We do have one major capital improvement that was already approved from a prior grant for the Autumn House building that we're estimating is going to spend about $170,000. Unfortunately, had my board not already awarded that contract, we would abolish it and absorb that pot of money into our operating expenses. Because we have less than 250 public housing units, we are what is called a small public housing authority. And under federal mandate, if we're a small public housing authority, we can use capital fund money for operating costs. The problem with that is all then you're able to do is pay your salaries, your lights, your utilities. Your water bills are killing me, guys. And anything else that would just be considered routine, but we can't do repairs. We can't do any extra modernization work. The federal government's aware of it. I am very active in very many housing industries. I was in D.C. in March. We've spent many days on Capitol Hill, doing our best to advocate for the programs. I do see in many communities that the programs are becoming, the public housing properties are becoming dilapidated as a result of it. And it does have a negative impact on any community. It does.
Well, I would also think that it has a negative impact on your objectives and goals. I mean, if you are putting people into homes that are, not where you'd like them to be, I mean, is there some point at which, if this goes on, or if this is just the new normal, this sort of sequestration?
If this is the new normal, I think where you're going to see the trend heading is we will give each of those families vouchers, have them move, and sell off the public housing stock eventually, if this is the trend. There is that element that the federal government has billions of dollars invested in public housing throughout the country. There is what is called a debt service, meaning even though we don't take a mortgage, every time they give us subsidy or they give us capital fund money, our debt grows to them. So we cannot just sell them and get rid of them without HUD's approval. We have to make some commitment to clear up that debt service. This has been going on since the 70s, so our debt service is astronomical. I do think that eventually, though, if we continue down this path, the last administration, when I say the last administration, the prior administration and the federal government was definitely leaning towards getting rid of public housing and converting everybody to the voucher program. This administration, though, has now cut the Section 8 voucher program by 33% as well. So I'm not sure there's going to be the funds there to issue vouchers to those individuals. And I wished I had the answer of what the future holds, but right now it's a little dire for us.
Well, there's a number of your houses and buildings in my neighborhood, certainly, and they're always well-maintained and cutely landscaped. And
we're struggling, but we're hanging in there.
Yeah, you put real good people in there, and they've been a nice contribution to the community.
Thank you.
I have a couple questions. First off, thank you for your years of service. 26 years in this industry. I think you said 26 years is huge, so thank you so much for that. I am curious. I'm glad you're back here. I hope it isn't another 15 or 20 years before we can do this again, because I think this kind of awareness is really important. So, I mean, to see you regularly, I think would help and raise awareness and to impact and influence our own policymakers at a federal level to help as much as possible, or however that is. I am curious about community partnerships and what can we do. I know you operate in anonymity other than the appointments that we make and a few other things, but how better can the city and the community organizations within the city support you?
We're open to discussion, and I guess my bad, so to speak, is that this group has changed frequently over the years, and I've been around 26 years, and I have seen groups come and go, and I've seen different levels of support of the Housing Commission. I've seen eras where the Housing Commission was considered an eyesore for the city, and they wanted to get rid of them. So the level of support has fluctuated. Maybe we've gotten a little gun shy. And maybe we can do better on that, and we're more than happy to talk about it. I do know that we have had some collaborative effort regarding the housing's requirement for the inspection process of all of our rental properties. What gets difficult there is we undergo inspections at the federal level that has a whole different set of code than what the city has. So then the federal level comes and inspect, and they enforce one set of code, and then we have the city come and inspect, and we have another set of code, and it's a matter of just not enough money. So we have had some collaborative effort. I did meet with a prior interim city manager you had on several occasions that he agreed to at least have some communication with me if new code was coming out that I was unaware of, because I can't ask HUD for the money if I don't know it's coming. So we have made some progress there. The city did also agree to waive the landlord licensing fee for the city. I think that was about 7 years ago. So we have made some progress there as well, because being the largest landlord in the city, you can imagine our landlord license fee were several $1,000s per year. So we have had some cooperation there, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, you are a significant part of the city, and I think the dialogue and activity, I think we, on all sides can step up and do better, and I think that's a noble goal because, again, not only your mission, but the impact you have to the city. To that end, one recommendation I would make, and nothing against our city manager, because I think she's wonderful, but I think having the city manager appoint your board creates a little bit of a disconnect to the policy-making entity of the city. So my request would be, and I know we need to do this by ordinance, and I know recommendations for the board have come from council members in the past, that appointment to your board shift from the city manager to city council, if for nothing else than to create more of a communication gap and an approval process, and so we've got, again, more skin in the game. And again, as the policymaking entity, I think it's our role to do that, and I don't think the city manager would object.
No. And I don't think that my board would object to that either. I don't think that that would be anything we would consider negative at all.
I support that, what I call the modernization of that ordinance, and I know we're looking at a lot of these ordinances, and I think this is an appropriate step to take, so I'm fully supportive of that. And I agree with partnerships. The library, the city, and now, the Housing Commission, we all need to be partners together, and it's very, very discerning that these housing subsidies are going down, because it is clear, and HUD will tell you, that a healthy community provides housing choices for all income levels, and then when you start having an imbalance is where you start having inequities in your community. And so I think it's very important that we figure out how to help one another and our residents who are through the HUD program. So I really appreciate you coming here. And I would concur with Dan, and I believe the ordinance says an annual presentation to council.
The current city ordinance says that I am to provide an annual report. We are required under the Single Annual Audit Act to provide an audit, and I do include in that a management report that I do provide. We just finalized, actually today, our 2012 Single Annual Audit. As soon as I get that in hard copy, it will be sent over to City Manager, and she can provide it to the board, to the City Council for review. It does include in there a management report from me.
And through the chair, one final comment. I'm really interested in seeing what capital improvement projects you need, and when I was elected to council, I had a tour of every public building and facility. I even went underground and looked at our water. It would have been great to have a tour of the facility, of our housing facilities, and so I'd like the opportunity to have one.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's our main number right behind you. My extension's 101.
Perhaps we could coordinate it through the city, because I think myself and maybe several other members would like to do that.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Sure. That would be great. I would appreciate that.
Yeah.
I can be a better advocate when I know what you need.
I can
agree.
work that out, please.
To that point, I think, I know the ordinance says to provide a report, but I think this really helps for you to come. And I don't know that we have to change the ordinance to say if you come in person every year, but it would be incredibly helpful if we did that going forward, just as, we need to come to you, see the property, and open those channels of communication more.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you for your time.
Appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Deborah.
Oh, here's the brochures.
Oh.
Can I hand these to you?
All right, we'll move on to our last item of business this evening, and that is a presentation of the new Ferndale website. And our Chief Innovation Officer, Joe, is over there plugging in the equipment, and yes.
I really want to cue the music, the final countdown. Because it's been such a, I always think of Kate Baker when she ran for council was all about creating a new website, and this was seven years ago, so.
And 1 year of Joe's life that he'll never get back.
April, do you have anything to
say? Yeah, I will. I
just,
we're very excited to report that around midnight tonight, give or take a few hours, that we're going to move from www.ferndale-mi.com to www.ferndalemi.gov. And I don't want to steal any of Joe's thunder, but I'll let him go forward. But it has been a year in the making, and many, many years of wanting and desire. Joe has worked countless hours, and I mean countless hours, making this as perfect as he thinks it can be. And again, he'll talk more about that, but I just wanted to give a big shout out to Joe for this time and energy, and his yelling at Artemis that that's not what he wanted, and he was very, very, very specific about what he wanted and what he wanted to see. So with that, I'm going to give it to him so that I don't steal any more of his thunder, but he did a phenomenal job, so hopefully it works. Looks like he's having some problems.
I've already had a preview. Joe took me through it already, and I've had an opportunity to provide comment.
Yep, a number of us have. but this is the official public unveiling
Hopefully.
of the city website. Well, this isn't, but
A little private on you for a second.
this is just Google. Uh-oh.
I have a feeling this could happen, so I sent myself a backup.
Go.
Drum roll, please.
This is the consequence of not doing anything by paper. Okay. I am here tonight to present and unveil the city's new website. City Manager Lynch did acknowledge we have changed the domain to ferndalemi.gov, our new 2.0 presence on the web. The process, as we outlined, we removed the hyphen. The hyphen was against traditional best practices of local government websites. So we opted to contact the GSA, General Services Administration, and they are actually recommending to trend towards the .gov domain. So we updated our domain to ferndalemi.gov per the standard of the GSA. This more clearly connotates what we actually do, which is service provision. We are not a commercial provider. We are not a .com. Next, the next biggest factor was owning our own content management. We had, for our history of our website, have contracted out content management to a third-party service provider, and the problem with that is we don't really own anything, and it makes it difficult to update and keep content dynamic. So what you get a lot of the times, what we had, a lot of pages without out-of-date information, and that just kind of makes the site difficult to navigate. So by restoring, it allows us to be more agile with our content management. We can change on the dot. We can add in news and events on the fly. We can remove news and events on the fly. We reduce the potential for outdated cluttering, and it allows to improve the face of our digital presence on the web. It is the first thing that people see. It is kind of our sole marketing point from a digital perspective. So when we began to streamline the content, we presented to City Council our audience-centric design solution. That started with running analytics going back to 6 months. We ran a heat map on the current site so we could kind of see all the hot spots, what content was being touched, what wasn't being touched, and a lot of it wasn't being touched. It was very cold. You had things that hadn't been touched for quite a long time, the entire duration of the 6-month period. The audience-centric design principles seek to construct navigation based on the user and what they might expect to find, how they might expect to find the information, not how the government thinks the information should be presented, which is, you know, from our perspective, we often want to present information based on how we provide it in our organizational structure. And when it really comes down to it, and the analytics suggested this, the public doesn't always care who provides it, how it's they care how it's provided, how to access the information about it. Key features of the new site. Number one, we wanted to design for mobility. So you will see online water bill payments now, as well as several other online transactions. There's several online form submittals. We have online service requests, such as code enforcement requests. And we have a searchable, consolidated public document library. So you don't have to read through just a long, giant page of public records of old council minutes and commission minute meetings and agendas. We actually have consolidated them into a Windows-style folder structure. So if you've ever used Windows, you'll understand how to use Document Library, and you can search for what you want. We wanted to eliminate the page pollution. It is the leading symptom of boredom and website apathy. We were actually successful, very successful in doing this. We ran the numbers and we successfully reduced the site pages 72%. The amount of pages on the current website were 2,198 pages. We now have 595. That's pages and different content pieces. So that is a significant reduction and much less to manage and much less to search through. We wanted to update the design and unify our branding. We did begin the branding unification process during the graphic design that we presented last December, led by Skidmore Studios. And we also incorporated that design and branding, including a color pattern and orientation into the new city website. And finally, the important thing would be for us to have the news events, the news feeds and the events calendar. We've never actually had a featured news feed and event calendar available on the website. This will keep news fresh, quick, and will auto expire once it's no longer relevant. So once a new news item is pushed, it kicks out the old one. Same with the events on the front page. June 25th, tomorrow, we will launch our pilot website. Now we are deploying the pilot to provide for time for the audience feedback. Since this is designed for the audience, it's an audience-centric design, we do require their feedback to best, to ensure that we have provided the content that is needed or that is wanted or that is useful. If we hit, we'd like to hear about it, and if we missed big time, we'd like to hear about it too. So we will go through how to submit that feedback once we look through the new website. We do expect also some bugs as with any major rollout initiative, so that is also why we are marking the pilot launch. The pilot launch is anticipated to be set for about 60 days, and we will revisit and make sure we listen to all feedback and respond to all feedback as appropriate. I do want to emphasize that the feedback is content-oriented, not design-oriented. The coding and the design is set for the graphic design structure of the website, but what we are looking for is feedback on the content. Our old or current website, if you will, www.ferndale-mi.com, has a couple problems with it.
Never see it again.
A picture?
You'll be able to kiss us goodbye soon. Well, we won't really go through that. It's late. We've improved, let's just say that.
Thank you.
The news site is still staged and not yet viewable by the public, but we are going to show you the stage site tonight. We will begin doing the launch series overnight tonight, flipping switches on and off and doing some testing.
So you're going to be up all night launching this, or how does that work?
Our consultants will be, and I will be on call, and I will be up night for a period after the council meeting, talking with them. The branding scheme, I want to go through that. We did design with purpose, so we do have a color pattern consistent with the branding presented by Skidmore. So we have the Ferndale Recreation Green, primer for rec featured events. We have the services and featured content gray. And we'll go through what that means briefly. When you see an orange call-out box on the left side of the page, that is taking you to an external website. The Ferndale City Green is the main color of the website. It's featured throughout the website. When there's an emergency alert, if something happens, you will see a red feature box pop up on the website. You'll know that's an emergency. And then the light blue is going to be a link to internal pages throughout the site. And let me manually switch this now.
So this is where the drum roll is appropriate. All right.
I'm going to build it up.
I feel like clapping.
Okay, we'll be moving back and forth a little bit.
Can I come down there?
Yeah. Okay, so this is the home page of our website. We do probably need to reduce the the image so you can see the full picture. But you'll notice we have the Ferndale brush F in the top left corner right here. We have our primary navigation. We've decided to separate the services from the bureaucracy, as we had mentioned. So all of the services that we provide for you are located under services. But we do refer back to the department on every service page. So you do know who is providing the service, and you are provided with the correct contact information.
Yikes, that didn't work.
It might be a little slow because they also are kind of working on it in the background right now, doing some final testing. We have our, we wanted to feature online services throughout the website, so no matter what page you're on, you will always see this green button that will take you to an online service page. We've consolidated every service that we provide online, including forms and online payments, to this one page, so you can just go there and make all your clicks. Not quite yet. We have our social media ties right here, and we have a popular pages. This is meant to help reduce the amount of time site users search for looking for popular featured pages. Whatever pages get the most hits auto-populate right there.
Mayor's bio, I'm sure.
Of course. We do have a photo rotator that will feature seasonal photos and special event photos from the city of Ferndale. Right now we're featuring kind of spring and summer shots in our public art. As mentioned before, this is the first time we have news, and I believe we talked about getting the word out about the local fireworks celebration. Well, we already have done that. That's a perfect example of how we can control the content management again and provide updates instantly. So there's a story right there linking to tonight's minutes and the local firework celebration restrictions. The events calendar actually is being worked on right now. You will have the same kind of events feeding from the event calendar. April, if you could scroll down a little bit. You'll have 4 to 5 news and events, the most recent news and events featured on the homepage. And then to make sure if you are scrolling down at the bottom of the page, and we don't want you to miss the quick links again, we have provided them in an icon-based link. So you can go to the, these icons take you to the most prominent pages as selected, suggested by the heat map we went through during the analytics, which are the agendas and minutes, the events calendar, we got the news, we got the online payments right away. You got the permit center. We've consolidated all the business permits in the city for only one location, so you don't have to search throughout the site. You can go to the one page and find what you're looking for. And the historical document library that we mentioned. Also on the footer, you will see the subscription option to the Constant Contact newsletter program from the Recreation and the City News. Below that, if we scroll down, you will see a website feedback button that is featured everywhere on the site. So no matter where you are on the site, you can also solicit feedback to us. That will go directly to my inbox. You also, no matter where you are at the bottom, you will have a direct link to a city service. We want to make sure you can get to the services quickly and easily no matter where you are on the page. Okay, and I think we can go just really quick through the subpages just to show you what they look like. And tomorrow we'll let users explore on their own. If you could click services, please. No, services up here in the primary navigation where the red dot is. And we'll also have a weather report for you. Yeah, this is a computer, not the website. So just to briefly identify, we do have the services. This is called your subpage structure. So users, when they click services, they'll see all of our basic service models on the left, alphabetized for you to look and find easily. Looks like we're having some issues with this load right now. I should have done it on my computer. Yeah. Okay, so I did want to show the water payments. Again, to get those, you would go to Utilities. We have a special Utilities page that we designed. On the Utilities page, we have outlined all of the service providers for utilities in the city of Ferndale, including the link to your DTE account and your Consumers Energy account and all the cable accounts that you might have with Comcast and WOW, the two private commercial agencies. And then we've also provided a link to the residential water online payments, and we've also identified the commercial water as their own independent user who might have some different information needs. So you have 3 direct links right there to utilities provider, non-city utilities, residential water, and commercial water. And then we will just do a quick feature on the online forms. We do want to just show you one of them, the boards and commissions. Oh, there's your online City of Ferndale Utility Services online water payment website. You can look up your bill, yes you can. And you can also now register for water service online as well as cancel water service online. You no longer have to come to City Hall to fill out a card. If you could click on to government. Right there you go. Okay. Again, with government, you will see our Twitter feed featured right on the homepage, so you will always know what government news is going on and getting tweeted about. If we could go to boards and commissions, as that's a perfect example, we've the pages are loading correctly. They're just not on this computer. It looks like we might be having some trouble with IE9, but that is why we're testing after this meeting tonight. So on the boards and commissions page is an example. Unfortunately, we can't really make it out right now. An example of an online form. You can now submit, if we scroll all the way to the bottom, a form that you can fill out completely online. You can upload resumes, you can upload documents that support your application, and they will be mailed directly to the appropriate department. This is just not going well for me. So to sum up, the website will be fine, and it will be launched tomorrow morning. We're just having a little problem with this particular older model computer. But we are very excited to have it come to an end. And I do have a summary or a conclusion page, too. One second.
And you're going to...
And the conclusion page was left out, too. This is not my night. Well, the conclusion page, pretty much, what I wanted to do was summarize where we were going next. And where we were going next, this is not a one-time thing. We want to make sure that we keep this website always continuing to move forward and always to be dynamic. So we have already scheduled a phase 2 with the consultant. We do have in our contract annual performance reviews and improvement opportunity reviews. So we have scheduled a discussion in July about implementing responsive design into our website, and that would begin tentatively in September. What that will do is help us design for mobility. That means that you're getting more people now using tablets, smartphones, split screen functionality on laptops, and people need to start designing their websites to adapt to that. So what we will need to do is prioritize content to make sure that people trying to do business and get to those online payments and transactions will be able to find that easily, and we will prioritize that for them to be able to pay from their tablet, pay from their smartphone easily. So that's kind of the future that we envision for the city's website, the city's social media, and even hopefully potential city applications.
Wonderful, wonderful.
And now questions.
Yeah. Are there questions of council?
Thank you all for your work. I don't
have
questions.
I know it's late, but I think this is perhaps an important question going forward. How do you measure the success of a municipal website? For a commercial site, you're looking at how sticky pages are, how many pages people click through. It's a different product here. So what would make this website a success other than looking prettier?
Well, the feedback, for one. We will now have a better comprehension of the feedback with how much we've encouraged the feedback throughout the website. You can submit that website feedback anywhere. Secondly, we will continue to have analytics on it, and the analytics will help us drive our understanding of what is being hit on, and are our online transactions being hit on right away? Are our FAQs that we've done, we've done comprehensive list of FAQs for all services, are those being used? We have actual counts we've put in place for each FAQ to know what's being hit and what's not. If there's an FAQ that's not being counted, it's not needed, we'll get rid of it. We've put in click measures for every time someone clicks one of our links. We will know if it's being clicked, and if that's not being clicked, then maybe we need to revisit what content we're actually broadcasting to people.
Thanks.
Well, I can't emphasize enough how excited we are to get this started, and as detailed and thorough as your presentation was, I think the bottom line is for residents, starting tomorrow morning, right? We won't encourage them to start this now because it'll be sometime in the morning.
It will not be available this evening.
But starting tomorrow morning, just go on the site, look around, navigate it, try it out and see how it feels, because I know you're gonna find it a lot easier than the current site, but I think folks are gonna find this just a much easier way to interact with the city of Ferndale. I look forward to paying my first water bill that way, I must say. So thank you, Joe, for all the hard work that you've done.
You're welcome. Again, I'm encouraging the feedback. Tomorrow I get it directly to my inbox. Tomorrow and continuing forward, let me know where we are successful and where we need to improve.
Excellent. Thank you, Joe. Welcome. And that concludes the regular agenda. So moving on, we'll go to call to council. The police chief is sitting in the back. Anything else for the good of the city this evening? All right. Jenny, anything from HR this evening? Brian, anything else from the fire department? All right. Lloyd, anything from DPW?
Yes, Mr. Mayor.
Any construction going on or anything?
Well, I was going to give you a rather quick update at this late hour. Overall, the project is actually slightly ahead of schedule, with the exception that the water main is slightly behind schedule. However, that said, tomorrow we should reach a significant milestone where we have the last connection on the water main to do, and many of the interruptions that our residents and businesses are experiencing will be over. And so we're really looking forward to that. Other than that, as you drive through the project, you'll notice the curbs complete, the light pole foundations are in, the conduits are in, and so this coming days you should see the driveways starting to be poured, and the project is taking significant shape. So we thank the business owners and the residents for their patience, and would also remind anyone who wishes to reach us that each week we hold a construction meeting at 11 a.m. at the DDA offices at 149 West 9 Mile. We welcome the public or anybody who has an interest in the project to come in, and we'll answer any of your questions.
Great.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
I just want to acknowledge, too, the DDA's work and Lloyd's work and Giffords and Webster in keeping this coordinated and taking all of the balls that are thrown at them and fixing them as quickly as possible. I know they've been working as a great team and making sure that any issues that business owners have or residents have that they've been addressing as quick as possible. And just want to commend all three of them for their teamwork on that and making this project as successful as it can be.
I agreed. And speaking of DDA, I get my text messages regularly and my emails regularly, so I feel very informed. Christina, anything else from the DDA from your perspective this evening?
I just want to say one thing. I mean, in terms of, I think, going above and beyond, I think this team has actually gone really above and beyond on a lot of occasions, and I really appreciate Lloyd's and DPW's services that past weekend with the cash mob and getting parking redirected for 8 Degrees Plato, because it really did pay off that business specifically. And I know sometimes when you think that, you're looking at a lot of businesses within an area, but when you can make a significant impact with that one, you've made a huge investment in publicly here. And it was community-wide, so I do really appreciate that. And they really did as well, so they're very appreciative of that. Great. So great job.
Great. Great, and a very creative way to assist our businesses as well. Thanks. Joe, anything else from your perspective this evening? I know that's been...
I'll have more after this one wrapped up.
All right, very good, fair enough. Sherilyn?
Nothing tonight, Your Honor.
All right. April, anything else from the city manager's office?
Just a couple of things. A friendly reminder that next week, Thursday and Friday, City Hall will be closed due to the Independence Day on July 4th. Which if you need to make any water payments, you can now do online. So, but just a note to self that we will be closed that Thursday and Friday. I just want to make, we're going to be doing a press release, but just as we move forward in our renovations for court and the police department, that court will be starting to move this week. All court activity will still remain at the building through Friday, but starting Monday, July 1st, they will be in their new location, which is, for anybody who's familiar with the Chamber of Commerce, that they are sharing some of that space along East 9 Mile, right across from the big Credit Union 1 building. So, again, our press release will be coming out, but starting Monday, July 1st, all their administrative work will be done there. And then for those who are coming to court, specifically will be coming here to City Hall. The police department is starting their exit as well, and they will be moving the week of July 17th. And again, as more details come forward, we will let everybody know and make sure that there is correct signage on the doors and as much signage as possible to move people into the direction that they need to go. And then last but not least, again, one more thank you, not only to Joe for all of his work on the website, but all of the staff that participated as heavy as they did, and their patience while our office sometimes had our doors shut for quite some time while he was trying to get through all of that. So, again, we thank you for all of that.
Thank you. Very good. Dan, anything from the legal perspective this evening?
Very briefly, Your Honor. Consistent with Councilman Martin's direction, I'll have an ordinance draft for your consideration at the next meeting regarding the makeup and appointment process for the Housing Commission.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Speaking of Councilman Martin, anything from your perspective this evening?
I have nothing this evening, Your
Honor. Councilwoman Mayor Pro Tem Piana.
Yes, I have two announcements. Today, the Woodward Avenue Alternative Analysis Steering Committee met, and we did some brainstorming exercises as part of the public engagement process of identifying where the bus rapid transit stops should be located. This is the beginning of figuring that out because we only have 6 more months to figure it out. This project has been a 2-year project. We are at 1.5 years, and we are coming towards the end. And what does that mean, and how do you get involved at this point? Because the public engagement process is going on in parallel with the technical analysis and the transportation modeling that sort of supports where stops should go and all of how the system should be built. And I just wanted to let you know that the next public meeting and the last public meeting will be in September as the formal public meeting put forth by SEMCOG, our project manager on this project. There are still many opportunities to get involved, to see what's going on, and there are 2 parallel projects going on. The Complete Streets Master Planning Process, which is looking at how do we redesign our streets, and then the alternative analysis is really looking at the bus rapid transit. So I'm encouraging City Council members to start looking at what's going on with the design elements that are coming out and participating. And if you haven't been able to go to a meeting, you can download the app. And anybody who wants to comment on the projects, you can do so now, also through transformwoodward.com. But you can also go to an iTunes and download go search for Transform Woodward, and you can download the Transform M1 app to submit your public comments and see what's going on with these projects. So at the end of December, of course, will be a plan in place about what we should be building, but no money in place to actually build it, and so we'll figure that out when next year starts.
Can I ask a question about that? In addition to individuals giving public comment on the planning aspects of it, does the city have an opportunity, especially when it comes to stops and things like that? Is it appropriate? Is there a point in the process where the city, in conjunction with our community development folks and others, can weigh in and have a sort of a slightly different impact than a average citizen input into this, or is that not part of the?
I think there will be smaller opportunities for city council members to do so. I'm working with Derek on having just a public outreach for business owners and property owners along Woodward and Ferndale, and hopefully we'll have that in August, and that would be an opportunity for you to come. Ferndale, we aren't the only. We can only give our comments about where we would like them. The steering committee our role is to provide feedback, be public champions of the projects, but we ultimately are not the decision makers. SEMCOG is and the federal government is, but they have to take in consideration all of our public comment. So if they don't have the number of public comments for or against something, then that will be taken into consideration with the technical modeling, transportation modeling sign. Well, I won't even get into here, but it's so technical I couldn't explain it anyway.
But I guess my question is it appropriate for us as a council to deliberate and maybe offer an opinion on some of those things versus us individually as residents?
I think we'll have an opportunity to do that. We'll make sure Derek comes to council and presents way before the final decision, and hopefully before September, which is the final public meeting, so you understand what has been transpired. So what's happening is that the one group, the Woodward Avenue Action Association, with their master planning process, is coming up with design concepts to look at how do we restructure our streets, wider sidewalks, bike lanes, more trees, and the alternative analysis side is working with that group to figure out, well, where would bus rapid transit go? It's great that these projects were both funded pretty much and started at the same time, because I can see how Complete Streets is really going to help everyone see how these two can fit, redesigning our streets and putting bus rapid transit on. So I think the next 6 months are critical in terms of letting your voice be heard and getting involved and looking at the design concepts. You can stay on top of all of this by going to transformwoodward.com and get a really great understanding of what's going on with all three. There's another project, too, called Transit-Oriented Development, but that's more of the land use zoning side and not the driving force right now. So. And my second announcement is I wanted to do it publicly and formally. I'm really excited to announce that I am running for re-election for a second term on Ferndale City Council. And I've worked hard, and I think I've demonstrated that I am thorough and that I've been a really great leader on multiple issues for the region. And I've said I would apply my urban planner professional background, and I think I have. And I want to see that through for a second term, and I'm excited to start my campaign. And I'm doing that tomorrow with my first fundraiser at the Woodward Avenue, not Woodward Avenue Action Brewers. It's there's too many Woodward Avenue. Sorry, it's the WAB. I'm just going to shorten it to the WAB. It's late. It's going to be at the WAB upstairs near the pool place, and it's from 6 o'clock to 7:30. So I encourage everybody to come out, come meet me, come see what my campaign will be all about. And I'm really excited to have the full support of all the council members, and I thank you for your endorsement and really supporting me going forward for a second term.
Well, thank you. Good. Very good. Councilman Galloway.
Well, just wanted to wish everyone a happy 4th of July. That will come and go before we come back here, and I hope folks use their discretion to use fireworks in a responsible way and live up to our motto of being good neighbors rather than pushing the limits of the law to turn our city into a war zone. So, happy 4th of July, be safe, and use some good sense with the fireworks.
Absolutely. A couple things. Number one, the parks, the Ferndale Blue Ribbon Commission on Parks met for a second time. We're in the process of designing a survey and feedback mechanism that the public will be able to give us input on the kinds of features and things that you would like to see in our parks that would make you more likely to use our parks. So that survey mechanism is being designed now, so stay tuned. Shortly, we'll be soliciting the community for your feedback, so excited about that. And secondly, I'm just going to reiterate what Councilman Galloway said. Just because you can blow off big things doesn't mean you have to. Give your neighbors a break, give the fire department a break, and have a safe and happy Independence Day. And this meeting is adjourned.